There is a quart jar setting on my counter this morning with a spoon standing straight up in it. That is yogurt. And it came out of one thing: milk and a spoonful of the batch before it. No thickener, no gum, no gelatin, no powder stirred in to hold it up like that. Before we are through, you will be able to set a jar just like this one on your own counter for right around $1, when the store is asking $2.60 for the plainest store brand quart and near $7 for a name brand Greek. And I will hand you the one step that decides whether your jar stands a spoon up or comes out thin and slumped with a puddle of yellow water on top. But not yet. Now let me tell you what that step is not. It is not a machine. It is not a packet of culture you send off for. It is not powdered milk stirred in to bulk it up. And it is not letting it sit longer. It is one plain thing you do to the milk before the culture ever goes near it. Here is the twist. Number 2 is that step, and it is where I bring this jar all the way home. Number 9 is the one I had backwards, and I will own it when we get there. And number 1, I would not even call it a trick. It is the reason a woman ever did this in the first place. These are not quaint old notions, honey. They are real kitchen skills down to a few old hands like mine. Let us count down the 17 things you need to know to quit buying yogurt for good. And do an old woman a kindness. Tell me down in the comments where you are watching from and tap that subscribe while you are here. Number 17. Your second ingredient is already setting in the dairy case, and it costs about 8 cents. Folks go hunting a packet from a catalog and never get past it. You need 2 tablespoons of plain yogurt off the shelf. For a thing to be sold as yogurt in this country, the law says it must be made with 2 particular bacteria: Lactobacillus bulgaricus and Streptococcus thermophilus. That tub is already full of the exact bugs you are after. So here is how you do it. The plainest tub they sell, and it must say live and active cultures. Number 16. Whole milk and skim will both set because it was never the cream holding it together. It is the protein. The fat makes it taste rich, but it is protein knitting into a mesh that holds the water in. Skim has near as much protein as whole. So here is how you do it. Whole for rich, skim for lean. Both of them will stand a spoon. Number 15. Turn the jug around and see whether it says ultra-pasteurized, because it changes what you have to do. Both kinds make good yogurt, but ultra-pasteurized was taken very hot in the plant, and part of the work is already done in there. Regular pasteurized has not had that done to it. That is why one neighbor swears you can skip a step and another swears you cannot, and both are telling the truth about their own jug. Hold that thought, honey. It comes back at number 2. Number 14. There are only 2 numbers in this whole business, 180 and 110. 180 is where the milk goes on the way up. 110 is where it comes back down to before the culture goes in, because hotter than that kills the very thing you paid for. Everything else is waiting. So here is how you do it. Write those 2 numbers on a scrap and tape it inside the cabinet door. Number 13. You can find 180 without a dial, and here is what it looks like. 180 is not the boil. It is just under it. The milk goes quiet and steamy, a ring of small bubbles comes up where it meets the metal, and the top stops looking flat and starts to shiver. The second it climbs the sides, you are past it. So here is how you do it. Small bubbles at the rim and a shivering top and no higher. Number 12. And you can find 110 with one finger. Put a clean finger down in it and hold it there. Warm, and you can leave it easy. That is about a baby's bottle, which is how it was judged on a wrist for 100 years before there was a dial in anybody's kitchen. So here is how you do it. If you can hold your finger in and count to 10, the culture will live. Number 11, stir the bottom because scorch does not come back out. Milk sitting still on a hot pan bottom will catch and burn, and that taste never comes out of a gallon. It does not have to be constant. A slow figure 8 along the bottom every minute or so is plenty. Number 10, it does not need a machine. It needs a warm place and 8 hours of being left alone. The culture wants around 105 to 110 degrees while it works, and you have 3 of those spots in your house right now. An oven switched off with the light bulb left on, a cooler with the jars in it and a couple jars of hot water for company, a heating pad on low under a towel. The old kitchens used the back of a wood stove or a crock wrapped in a quilt near the hearth. So here is how you do it. Find your warm spot before you ever heat the milk. It does not have to be exact. It has to be steady. Number 9, more starter does not make more yogurt. Here is one I had backwards, and I will own it. For a good while, I figured if 2 tablespoons made a quart set, a half cup ought to set it faster and firmer. That is wrong, and it ruins a jar. Too much starter crowds the milk. Too many bugs eating too fast, the acid comes up before the gel can build, and what you pull out is grainy and sharp and weeping. So here is how you do it. 1 to 2 tablespoons for a quart, a half cup for a whole gallon. You are seeding it, not feeding it. Number 8, once it is in the warm, do not touch it. Do not stir it, do not jostle it, do not lift the lid to have a look. What is happening in there is a gel building itself, and that mesh is holding every bit of the water inside it. Break it while it is building, and it will not knit back. It sets broken, and the water runs out and pools on top. That is where half the puddles come from that folks blame on the milk. And you keep that still jar in your mind. That jar is still setting up over there, and number 2 is where I hand you the step that made it stand. I have not told you yet. Number 7. Time makes it sour. It does not make it thick. People leave a jar 14 hours hoping it will firm up, and all they get is a jar that will pucker your mouth. The bacteria eat the milk sugar and put out acid, and the acid tips the protein into a gel. Once the gel has set, it has set. More hours past that is just more acid. 4 to 6 hours is mild. 8 to 10 is the middle of the road. 12 and past is sharp on the tongue. Not one of them is thicker than the others. Number 6, save 2 spoonfuls out of every batch, but do not run it forever. Your own jar seeds the next one, and that one seeds the one after, and you will not buy a tub again for months. But it does drift. Batch after batch, one strain gets ahead of the others, and it goes thinner and sourer than what you started with. So here is how you do it. Save 2 spoonfuls off the top before you eat any of it, and start fresh from a store tub every 6 or 8 batches. Number 5, strain it and you have got Greek for none of the extra money. Line a sieve with a clean flour sack towel, set it over a bowl, and pour the yogurt in. An hour in the icebox gives you thick. 4 hours gives you the stiff, spoonable kind. A quart strains down to about 2 cups. Strain it in the icebox and never on the counter. Number 4. What runs out of that sieve is not garbage. You will have near 2 cups of pale yellow whey in the bowl underneath, and it is milk sugar and a fair bit of protein. Do not pour it out. It goes in biscuit dough in place of buttermilk, in soup, and in the pot when you cook oatmeal. Watered about 1 part to 4, it goes out on your tomatoes. So here is how you do it. Jar it and use it inside a week. Number 3. Every thin jar you ever made was cold in the middle of it. Here is the tie together, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. There are only two ways a jar comes out thin and weeping, and neither has a thing to do with your starter or your patience. The first is that the milk was never taken hot enough for long enough on the way up. The second is that the jar got moved while the gel was building. That is the disease. Folks blame the starter or the milk or the weather. The set is thermal. It is decided before the culture ever goes in the jar. So here is the thing. I have told you the disease. The cure is the very next number. Number 2. 180 degrees, and then you hold it there. Now let me go get that jar. Look at her. Spoon standing straight up in the middle, thick clear through, not one drop of water on top of her. I promised I would bring her home and hand you the step, and here it is. The milk went to 180, and then it stayed at 180 for a solid 15 minutes, stirred slow along the bottom so it would not scorch. Not up to 180 and straight back off the fire, held there. That is the secret, and near nobody tells you the holding part. Here is why it works, and the dairy folks have this measured. There are two kinds of protein in milk. One sets into a gel when the acid comes up. The other, the one that lives in the whey, will not join in at all unless you cook it past a certain point first. Hold that milk at 180 and you change that second protein so it can grab hold of the first. Now, instead of one protein building the mesh, you have both, and that mesh is finer and stronger, and it holds the water instead of letting it run. And now you know why the jug mattered back at number 15. Ultra-pasteurized milk got some of that done in the plant, so it will forgive you. Regular pasteurized will not forgive you a thing. It is also the reason the store has to put gums and gelatin in a tub. They are buying with a thickener what you get free with 15 minutes and a low fire. So here is how you do it. 180 and hold it 15 minutes. Cool to 110. 2 tablespoons of starter, stirred in gentle. Into the warm, lid on, and do not you touch it for 8 hours. Hot and held sets thick. Hot and hurried runs thin. Number 1. This was never about health food. I told you at the start I would not even call this one a trick, and I meant it. Think on what a gallon of milk was in a house with a cow and no icebox. It was not a grocery, it was a clock. It came in warm twice a day, whether anybody was hungry or not, and by the second day, it was a decision. Every soured milk food we have got came out of that same corner. Yogurt, clabber, buttermilk, cheese, all of it. Not one of them was invented to be good for you. They were invented so a woman did not have to stand at the door and pour a gallon of milk out on the ground. Souring was not spoiling. Souring was the thing you did to milk so it would still be food in 3 days. And the culture itself was never bought. It was handed over, a spoonful out of somebody's crock into your crock, and yours into hers, back and back, one kitchen to the next, for as long as there have been kitchens. The jar on my counter this morning came out of the jar before it. That is the one thing in a grocery store you cannot buy. Something that keeps itself going so long as somebody keeps handing it on. So here is my challenge. Pick one thing, just one, and go do it this week. Take a gallon of milk to 180. Hold it there and see what comes out. Then tell me down in the comments. What did your people keep their milk in, and what county were they in? Is there anybody up your holler still keeping a starter going from 1 week to the next? Because this was never quaint old foolishness. It was a working kitchen, generations deep, held in the hands of women nobody ever wrote down. So I am setting mine down here for you. They knew. Now it is written.